The top cop who put his badge on the line for justice.
You know the name Doug Poppa? Yes, I do. God bless Doug Poppa, an honest cop.
He was a man of integrity. His testimony last summer freed an innocent man from jail who had already been convicted of shooting his ex-wife. But Poppa's going public cost him his job as an undercover cop.
I was elated, of course, but then as he testified, I was somewhat concerned for him, because I knew that they were probably going to crucify that man.
Sometimes the truth has a price. That may be the lesson of a Virginia police officer who says, in trying to do the right thing, he ended up paying for it.
The message you're sending is, see, we did it, Doug. You don't come out, you don't buck the system. No matter what the reason is, you just can basically keep your mouth shut. But if I wouldn't do it all over again, I would take the badge and I would leave it on somebody's desk and get out of police work. Because the day I can't tell the truth because somebody's pressuring me, and the day the system doesn't want me to tell the truth because somebody's pressuring me, is the day I'd leave the badge on the desk and walk away.
Poppa was fired for insubordination. One man who confronted truth and consequences.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Truth and Consequences podcast from Las Vegas, Nevada. This is episode 126 for Sunday, November 6, 2022. I'm your host, Doug Poppa. This is another exclusive news story. Today's topic, LVMPD sergeants. One refused to back SWAT officer, another hid in hotel restroom night of October 1st massacre. Let me play this short video. We've all seen it before, but I'll play it here just because it's pertinent to what I'm going to say here tonight.
Multiple GSWs to the chest, leg, femoral artery, at the medical check, at the medical check, 4A, off of guy, south, of Riddle. 751, I see there's a flashing coming up from about a third of the way up. Control, we need all units stop coming northbound on Las Vegas Boulevard because he's shooting this way. It's a horrible cover spot. Okay, all units
10 break. No unnecessary contact on the radio, please. We know where it's at. It's the 32nd floor for 135. Everyone else off the radio. I'm with Metro right now.
Oh my God. Multiple GSWs to the chest, leg, femoral artery, at the medical check, at the medical check, 4A.
Okay, folks, we all saw that video several times over the past couple of years. That was LVMPD field training officer at the time, Cordell Hendricks, retreating on the 31st floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel with his partner and 3 armed security supervisors, as the gunman's fire was killing and wounding those below on October 1st, 2017. Hendricks made no attempt to reach the shooter one floor above. That said, Hendricks was not the only Las Vegas Metro police officer whose actions were questionable the night of the worst mass shooting in modern American history. Sheriff Joe Lombardo, a documented liar, and his then undersheriff Kevin McMahill, also a documented liar, were not transparent and forthcoming with the public, and in doing so, made Hendricks out to be the only officer whose actions were questionable that night, which, ladies and gentlemen, is not true. I will get to that in a few minutes, but first, I'm going to put this up on the screen here, and I'll be reading something. Audio podcast people, I know you're not going to be able to see the photographs on the screen, but okay, ladies and gentlemen, up on the screen, on October 31st, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department sent out a press release titled Suspect in 42-Year-Old Homicide Cold Case Arrested. Reading from the press release, the LVMPD has arrested the suspect in the murder of 25-year-old Sandra DeFelice, who was found dead in her home nearly 42 years ago. On December 26, 1980, at approximately 9:30 p.m., LVMPD officers responded to a residence located in the 1500 block of East Bonanza Road for a report of a dead body. Evidence at the scene suggested the victim had been sexually assaulted. The LVMPD homicide section led the investigation, collected numerous items of evidence at the scene, and developed a person of interest. At the time, none of the investigative efforts led to the identification of the suspect who murdered DeFelice. The case remained unsolved and was assigned to the LVMPD Homicide Cold Case Section. In February 2021, LVMPD cold case detectives reviewed the case and resubmitted additional evidence for testing using new DNA technology. As a result of this testing, the suspect was identified as 64-year-old Paul Nuttall, Nuttall. On October 27, 2022, Nuttall was taken into custody by the Criminal Apprehension Team. Nuttall was booked into the Clark County Detention Center for arrest warrants issued for open murder with the use of a deadly weapon, sexual assault with the use of a deadly weapon, and burglary while in possession of a deadly weapon. Ladies and gentlemen, you got to give thumbs up to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department on the job well done on this. Another dirtbag murderer off the street who obviously was living the good life for the past, or whatever kind of life he was living for the past 40 years. So this piece of garbage is off the street thanks to the LVMT cold case unit and DNA evidence. And understand it was DNA evidence that was found under the murdered lady's fingernails. Now I wish they'd close the Las Vegas 2016 unsolved double homicide of Sidney Land and Nehemiah Kaufman. And I'll have more coming up on that, as I stated in previous podcasts, on future podcasts. Ladies and gentlemen, October 20th, I published episode 125 and broke the story that LVMPD patrol detective Michael Lyons had been arrested and charged with kidnapping and coercion constituting domestic violence with threat or use of physical force. The next day, October 21st, the LVMPD sent out a press release which confirmed what I had reported, and the local media picked up on the story. Get it up on the screen there. I have recently been informed that Internal Affairs Bureau detectives had found a video on Lyons' cell phone that led to further charges filed against him. According to Las Vegas Justice Court records, which confirmed what I was told, I'll get that up on the screen for you. Court records confirm another domestic violence charge on Lyons and an additional charges of domestic battery by strangulation, indecent or obscene exposure, false imprisonment, destroy the public property of another, and an additional coercion charge in addition to the first one that they had on him. So if what I was told was true, I have no reason to believe it was not. My sources are usually correct. For some reason, this guy decided to photograph with the video on a cell phone camera some things he was doing to the woman that led to these charges. So if that's the case, and I believe it is, not too bright on his part, because now he's got additional charges in addition to the original charge that I talked about in that episode. While I'm on the subject of internal affairs investigations, LVMPD officer Trung Tai, who was shot and killed on October 13th of this year. Officer Tai is a hero who returned fire on the gunman's vehicle while he was mortally wounded and succumbed to his injuries at the hospital. I was told through sources that Officer Tai was the subject of an internal investigation about a month or two prior to his death. It was a frivolous complaint, I was told, that was made by his sergeant, Christopher Cooney, that had to do with an overtime assignment. I was told that Internal Affairs shit-canned the complaint because it was basically BS. I'm only mentioning this because people who talked to me said you got to consider the source, and they're talking about Sergeant Cooney. Cooney came under scrutiny in 2021 before he was promoted to sergeant, and I believe he was promoted in February of 2021, when this photo surfaced on his Facebook page showing him at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. The Internal Affairs Bureau investigated Cooney and subsequently closed the case. A union representative at the time told the media that Cooney had no involvement or engagement in any illegal activity, at the U.S. Capitol. In 2014, Cooney came under scrutiny when his credibility was under question when he testified at his mother's attempted murder trial. A source inside the Clark County District Attorney's Office stated that they consider Cooney a, quote, Brady cop, meaning they can no longer use him as a witness in any case because they believe he gave false testimony at his mother's trial. I was told Cooney's testimony at trial conflicted with statements he had given prosecutors prior to the trial. And my comment on that is this. If the district attorney's office believed he gave false testimony, then why wasn't then Officer Cooney charged with perjury? Not only is he still a cop today, but like I said earlier, he was promoted to the rank of sergeant in 2021. On October 18th, I published episode 124 that was titled LVMPD Arrest Michael Zahara for Threatening to Shoot Up LGBTQ plus event. His history is disturbing. That was the title of episode 124. In that episode, I reported that Zahara, on his then blog, Watchdog Wag, which is now shut down, Zahara advocated for the murder of then federal judge nominee Jennifer Tagliati and for the death of Nevada Governor Steve Sisolak and Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Apparently nothing changed with Zahara, because on his website that was started after he shut down his blog, Zahara echoed comments from his blog by posting the following comments. Get this up on the screen so you can see it. I'm going to leave it up for a second because, anyway, that's on his new website. And for the audio podcast people, the comment that's on that website, he's echoing a comment from his blog by posting the following comments. Toxic progressive politicians, journalists, and propagandists need to become martyrs for their cause. And then another comment, both men, always very high atop Nevada's political assassination wish list of local citizens, human garbage brothers Adam Laxalt and Nicholas Trutanich. And ladies and gentlemen, Laxalt is the former Nevada Attorney General, and Trutanich is the former U.S. Attorney for the District of Nevada. I'm not going to get into this whole thing now, but I'll make a comment here. This is the problem we got, ladies and gentlemen, in this country right now, okay, with this toxic hate speech, calling for people's death and murders of politicians, no matter what side of the fence they're on, journalists and all this stuff. And this guy's been doing this for years, like I said in that episode, and I'll have the episode link in the description section of this video when I publish it. According to Las Vegas Justice Court records, on November 1st, Michael Zahara waived his right to a preliminary hearing on the felony charge that he was originally charged with, which was making threats/false information reference to an act of terrorism. And according to the court records, the case was bound over to the 8th Nevada Judicial District Court. So that's what's going on with him. Now back to today's topic. You have heard me say time and again that when I was writing for the Baltimore Post-Examiner, we broke one story after another on the Las Vegas massacre. On June 6, 2019, we broke the story titled Las Vegas Metro Police, Officer Cordell Hendricks, who failed to take action during massacre, no longer employed. Give me 1 second here. I want to get some slides up on the screen here. Okay, these are the three stories I'm talking about that are up on the screen now. On July 6, 2019, we ran the story titled Las Vegas Metro Police Announce Hendricks Fired 1 month after Baltimore Post-Examiner broke story. After we broke the story 1 month prior, the LVMPD released the following statement. The LVMPD's Office of Public Information has received numerous inquiries regarding the employment status of Officer Cordell Hendricks. Hendricks was terminated from the LVMPD effective March 20, 2019, for performance of his duties. This case is currently in arbitration, and therefore no further comment will be made. Hendricks' date of hire was May 7, 2007. On October 1st, he was assigned as a field training officer with the Convention Center Area Command. Then LVMPD Undersheriff Kevin McMahill, speaking of Cordell Hendricks, told the media in 2019, quote, "He was terminated from our organization because we don't believe he performed at the level that we trained him to. We train our officers in a variety of different ways, and we believe we provided the training to all of our officers, and we see that played out in many other body cams. In this particular case, particularly with the responsibility of having a trainee along with him, we didn't believe that he, meaning Hendricks, met the standards of conduct for the organization." Okay. On July 5th, 2019, the Baltimore Post-Examiner published my article that was titled, "Hendricks May Not Have Been the Only Cowardly Cop, Law Enforcement Sources Say." In that article, I stated that sources said that an LVMPD sergeant gave his rifle to another officer and allegedly left the area. Sources said, quote, "The department is trying to bury this on the QT," unquote. I wrote in that article that on Monday, the Baltimore Post-Examiner sent a media request for comment to the LVMPD Public Information Office and also requested the name of the sergeant and the police officer involved. As of Tuesday evening, the LVMPD did not respond to our request, and that is covered in my story from 2019. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, 1 year before I wrote that article, and here is I don't have the input on it, but it's up on the screen here. Like I said, 1 year before I wrote that article, on July 1st, 2018, I sent a media request to the LVMPD as follows. The Baltimore Post-Examiner is requesting the name of the LVMPD sergeant who gave his rifle to a patrol officer and abandoned his job the night of October 1st, 2017. We also request the name of the police officer who the rifle was given to. It is also our understanding from sources that the sergeant was also in violation of department policy for handing the rifle to the officer. I never received a reply back from the LVMPD. Before I wrote the article, during the last week of June 2019, I sent another media request to the LVMPD Public Information Office naming the sergeant as LVMPD Sergeant John Riddle, who according to my sources told me that's who it was, and asked for a confirmation reply. I did not receive one. So on July 3rd, 2019, I sent this media request to the LVMPD as follows. We are still waiting for a reply on our media request for comment on Sergeant John Riddle that we sent to you last week. We heard nothing back. Additionally, Metro police officers have told us that the department has completed its report on officers' actions the night of the October 1st, 2017 Las Vegas massacre. The Baltimore Post-Examiner under FOIA and the Nevada Public Records Act is asking for a complete unredacted copy of that internal LVMPD report. Also, please provide to the Baltimore Post-Examiner Sergeant Riddle's report that he filed in relation to his actions on the night of the massacre. And then what is Sergeant John Riddle's current status with the LVMPD as of this date? And ladies and gentlemen, I never received a reply, and I went ahead with the story as the information I got from my sources at that time. Now, folks, let's hold on LVMPD Sergeant John Riddle for a minute. By the way, Sergeant Riddle, P number 9306, has since been promoted to lieutenant by Sheriff Joe Lombardo. Let's go back to Officer Cordell Hendricks. We learned after LVMPD officers' reports were released by court order that Sheriff Lombardo fought to not be released, by the way, the contents of those reports. Among the things Cordell Hendricks wrote in his office report was, quote, and I'll put a screenshot of his report here for a second. If you want to read it, you can go back and freeze that up. Anyway, these are some of the things Cordell Hendricks said in his report that he wrote, reference to his actions on the night of October 1st, 2017. The sound of the shots was so very loud and reverberated through the hall all around and above us. I could tell that it was coming from the floor above us on 32. I told everyone to get back, and we retreated a few doors from the end of the hall. I know I hesitated and remember being terrified with fear, and I think I froze right there in the middle of the hall for I don't know how long. I can't say. I did not know what to do next. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are terrified with fear, you freeze during an active shooter incident, and you don't know what to do next, obviously you can't make a tactical decision. Hendricks made no attempt that night to reach the shooter. That is now part of history. That being said, I have to give credit to Hendricks, and I said this before in another podcast, for being honest when he wrote his report, because that is what we should expect of all police officers, to relate the facts as they occurred and not omit anything and or file a false report. In March of 2019, LVMPD officer Cordell Hendricks was reinstated. Las Vegas Police Protective Association Executive Director Steve Grammis told the Las Vegas Sun newspaper at the time that the arbitrator wrote in her opinion that she didn't feel Hendricks's actions that evening rose to the level of termination or any discipline at all. Grammis said Hendricks was the only Las Vegas police officer disciplined for inaction directly related to the shooting. Grammis said, quote, "But Officer Hendricks is happy that everyone can put this behind them," unquote. My comment on that remark is I wonder if the families of those killed and the survivors of the worst mass shooting in modern American history will ever put what happened to them on October 1st, 2017, behind them. Ladies and gentlemen, since I wrote that article in July of 2019, I have received more information. As I stated earlier, the court ordered the release of police reports and other documents, including police body camera video related to the October 1st massacre. Sergeant John Riddle's report states nothing about him relinquishing his rifle to another officer on the night of October 1st or any other questionable behavior on his part that night. There's a photograph from a couple of years ago of, well, that's his police report. You can go back and you want to look at it. You can freeze it and then go back. This is Sergeant John Riddle at the time. Like I said, he's since been promoted to lieutenant. Folks, what I'm about to tell you, according to police sources, has been an open secret within the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department since October 2017 and has been concealed from the press and the public. Now, you, the public, will know what Sheriff Joe Lombardo, former Under-Sheriff Kevin McMahill, who is currently the sheriff-elect, and the Las Vegas Police Protective Association, the union for the rank-and-file police, has kept from the public. This is what I was told by police sources, ladies and gentlemen. On the night of October 1st, 2017, Sergeant John Riddle went into a restroom at the Mandalay Bay Hotel, removed his uniform shirt, ballistic vest, and relinquished his AR-15 platform rifle to LVMPD Corrections Officer Daniel Coyne, spelled C-O-Y-N-E. Sources said it took other officers approximately 30 minutes, if not more, to talk Riddle into putting his uniform back on and going back out. I was told comments were made to Riddle by other officers telling Riddle to restore his dignity and get back outside. An entire squad of police officers, I was told, were tied up in a hotel restroom during the massacre for about a half hour trying to restore the dignity of the sergeant. Cordell Hendricks was fired because of his inaction that night didn't meet the standards of the department, as then Under-Sheriff Kevin McMahill told the media in 2019. So, how was it that Hendricks was reinstated in 2020? The police union said, like I stated before, that the arbitrator wrote in her opinion that she didn't feel Hendricks's actions that evening rose to the level of termination or any discipline at all. But ladies and gentlemen, they didn't tell anybody the full story. What they didn't tell the public, according to sources who spoke to me, is that Sergeant John Riddle's incident was brought up during Hendricks's arbitration as a defense to Hendricks getting reinstated. I was told that Sheriff Lombardo defended Riddle, saying Riddle had a medical episode that night, so Lombardo excused what Riddle did. Let's face it, folks, Cordell Hendricks was branded a coward for not taking any action to reach the shooter. They said Hendricks didn't meet the standards of the department. Hendricks was one floor below an active shooter, and he was fired. Riddle was on the casino level of the Mandalay Bay Hotel, where there was no active shooter, and he went into a restroom, removed his uniform, shirt, and ballistic vest, turned his rifle over to another officer. There was a squad of officers tied up with Riddle in the restroom, and Riddle wasn't fired. Like I said, this was covered up. Hendricks, as I stated earlier, was honest when he wrote in his officer's report that he was frozen with fear and didn't know what to do next. Riddle wrote nothing in his officer's report that describes what happened in the restroom. Nothing at all, ladies and gentlemen. Riddle does say in his report, quote, "I eventually had to take a break, and a majority of the officers in my strike team continued searching the casino without me," unquote. Riddle omitted pertinent facts in his police report. So according to Lombardo, Riddle had a medical episode that is not documented in Riddle's report. Riddle was subsequently, like I said before, promoted to lieutenant. Now back to Cordell Hendricks getting reinstated. They had no choice, folks, from what I was told. The Riddle incident, like I was told, was brought up during the arbitration hearing. How could they not reinstate Hendricks when no disciplinary action was taken against Riddle? The Riddle incident was never divulged to the public because the department didn't want any further embarrassment. The corrections officer, Daniel Coyne, who Riddle gave his rifle to in the restroom and was in the restroom with Riddle and other officers, well, there is no mention of anything about that in Coyne's officer's report. That's Officer Coyne. That's his report. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I have read every officer's report that was released to the public. There is no mention of the Riddle incident in any other officer's reports that I could find. So apparently, the Riddle incident was omitted by other officers, also to protect Riddle, and that is a problem, folks. How can you trust the validity of an officer's report if they omit pertinent facts? Next question is, what about body camera video? None that I could find, even though there were several officers in the restroom with Riddle. Did they turn their cameras off, or was the video suppressed by the LVMPD and not released to the public? That we may never know. As for LVMPD Corrections Officer Daniel Coyne, he is now a union rep with the Las Vegas Police Protective Association. He has made comments to other officers over the years using the term, quote, "the Riddle defense," unquote, and how Hendricks got his job back. Coyne even bragged about it to a group of officers at the University Medical Center a few years back and has been talking about it for years to people. So, according to the union rep now, Coyne, and he was the officer, the corrections officer, that Riddle turned his rifle over to, and there's no mention in Coyne's report, now works for the union. I think he's the treasurer, union rep, and no mention in his report. And he's been talking about this for years. And like I said earlier, people who talk to me, sources, said this has been an open secret within the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department for years. So now it's an open secret with the public. Now, what about the sergeant that refused to back up a SWAT officer, as I said in the title of this episode, on the night of October 1st, 2017? Well, according to sources, that was Sergeant Bryce Martinez, first name spelled Bryce, last name spelled Martines, and his P number is 13408. On the night of the massacre, lone SWAT officer Levi Hancock entered the Mandalay Bay Hotel. I was told Levi was forming an element with patrol officers to go with him to the 32nd floor where the threat was. Hancock, with other officers, spotted Sergeant Martinez and asked him to assist them, that they were going to the 32nd floor where the threat was. I was told Martinez said no and told Hancock that he was going to stay down on the casino level and sweep the casino. From what I was told, Hancock again reiterated to Martinez that the threat was upstairs on the 32nd floor and not down at the casino level. Martinez said no and walked away. Ladies and gentlemen, There is no mention in Sergeant Bryce Martinez's officer's report that SWAT officer Levi Hancock requested his assistance in going to the 32nd floor and that he refused. And I have a copy of that I'll put on the screen. That is Officer, or then Sergeant Martinez, who's still a sergeant on the police department. That is his officer's report. Ladies and gentlemen, if you think this is bad, well, there's more. There were more officers, from what I was told, whose actions were questionable the night of the Las Vegas massacre. Over a dozen, from what I was told. I have information on a few other incidents that I'm still working on, and I will update you on a future episode. So to recap this, Cordell Hendricks gets fired, and I'm not defending Cordell Hendricks. The only thing I'm giving him credit for is that he went up to the 31st floor, but once he got there, he didn't do anything because he froze. Like he said, he didn't know what to do next. And obviously, if you're in that condition, you can't make a rational decision on a tactical an operation on what to do. So he gets canned. He gets his job back because Riddle did what he did in the bathroom, turned over his rifle, took his uniform shirt off and his vest. And one source told me that he believes that's why he did it, because there was talk that the shooter was targeting cops because some cops had got shot. And that's what prompted him to go in the bathroom. But whatever. He went into the bathroom. Sheriff Lombardo, Under Sheriff McMahill knew about it. The entire police department. This is an open secret within the police department. And that's the reason why I was told was the major factor why they had to give Hendricks his job back. Now, and that would make sense, ladies and gentlemen, because you fire Hendricks, who even put in his report that he was frozen, like I said, and didn't know what to do. He was scared. They fired him, but Riddle doesn't get fired, and Lombardo defends him by saying it was a medical episode. So if Riddle was having a medical episode by running in the bathroom and taking his shirt off and his equipment and turning his rifle over, but then how come Hendricks wasn't considered a medical episode when he actually put in there he froze and didn't know what to do? So either way, Hendricks got his job back, I was told, because if he kept fighting it and he lost arbitration, if he filed a lawsuit or went further with it, the Riddle incident would come out. And they did not want that to come out, folks. They wanted to conceal that. So they made him out to be the only police officer that night that had questionable actions that night. That, like I said, there's some other stuff out there I'm nailing down. There was allegedly another field training officer who tried to hail down an Uber car to get out of the area, and it didn't work. There was another officer, I'm told, that hid under a police cruiser and refused to come out. Another officer was hiding in one of the trailers over there, and he didn't want to get out. Like I said, there's over a dozen, if not more, from what I'm told, and I'll have that updates on future episodes. So there you have it, folks. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel of Truth and Consequences with Doug Poppa. Support my independent investigative journalism at paypal.me/Doug Poppa. Contact me at truthandconsequenceswdp@gmail.com. And I will see you on the next episode. Thanks for watching and listening.